Hi there, welcome to Camera Then Coffee, where you and me discuss cameras that are worth for money. And today we'll be looking at a detailed specs comparison of the new Fuji XH2S and the equally amazing Canon R5. It's a new channel, so if you find this video helpful, do consider subscribing. It helps me when you do that. Cool, let's begin. So one of the favorite Canon R5 is around 2 years older than the new Fuji XH2S, and there is a significant difference of $1,500 in their prices. Now let's start with the most important specs of the camera. Starting with the sensor, the Canon R5 leads with 45 megapixel full frame sensor versus a 26.1 megapixel APS-C sensor on the new Fuji XH2S. But I must highlight that the one on XH2S is the new stacked sensor that quadruples readout speed for faster image processing capabilities. Not just that, the new Fuji XH2S has a new X processor 5 which has introduced AI deep learning to the Fuji X series for the first time. And together, the new sensor and the powerful processor allow 15 fps continuous shooting using mechanical shutter and 40 fps using electronic shutter on new Fuji XH2S, which is obviously better than Canon R5. And speaking of ISO, the Canon R5 has a wider range. And talking about shutter speed, as you can see, the Fuji XH2S is more versatile. Next up is autofocus, and good for us as creators, both the cameras have the latest and best autofocus systems of their respective companies that allow smooth and confident continuous focusing. But if we talk about numbers, there is a significant difference in the number of AF points present on both the cameras. And in this case, Canon R5 is better. And during nighttime photography or in low light situation when the light is not in our favor, the XH2S moves ahead of Canon R5 as it claims to focus down to light level of -7 eV. And yes, there is eye, face and head detection on both the cameras for humans, animals as well as birds. Looking at the dimensions of both the cameras, it looks like the Canon R5 is both larger and heavier than the XH2S. And good for creators, both the cameras have an articulating touchscreen or flip screen. But if we talk about the display quality of the screen, the Canon R5 is better than XH2S. And I must share, both the cameras have a sub-monitor at the top that displays shutter speed, aperture, ISO, white balance and a few other infos that will be quite helpful. Next up is electronic viewfinder, and as you can see, both the cameras have the same story. Unfortunately, there is no internal flash on both the cameras, but it's okay because external flash is always a better option. One really good thing both the cameras have is that they have dual card slots, and both the cameras also support CF Express Type B cards that deliver faster writing speed and better buffer capabilities. Now let's look at the battery capacity of both the cameras. As mentioned by both the companies, you can see that XH2S has better battery capacity. But Canon has mentioned that these numbers are on a single charge under strict testing conditions, and you can obviously capture more in real-world shooting conditions. And regarding video battery life, the Canon hasn't really specified anything about R5. And yes, both the cameras are water and dust resistant, but their resistance doesn't prevent water or dust from entering the camera. So please make sure you take your precautions. Talking of lens mount, there is X mount on XH2S and RF mount on R5. Now before we look at the video specs of both the cameras, let's have a 10-second quick look at the pods present on both the cameras. And now it's time for video specs. The best Canon R5 has to offer is 8K RAW up to 30p and 8K RAW Lite up to 30p, whereas the best XH2S has to offer is 6.2K up to 30p. In competition to which, the Canon R5 also offers 5K ProRes RAW up to 60p. And when it is about 4K, both the cameras can record DCI and UHD 4K up to 120p. But in case of Full HD recording, the XH2S wins the battle as it can record up to 240p. However, the real magic is in external recording. On one side where XH2S can record 12-bit Apple ProRes RAW up to 6.2K, on the other hand the Canon R5 can do 10-bit 8K or 5K ProRes RAW videos. Wow. And yes, good for us as creators, both the cameras have their best log profiles. But I must share that the f-log2 on XH2S records an expandable dynamic range of 14 plus stops versus 12 stops of dynamic range in Canon R5. Making the video specs even better is the good performing 5-axis in-body image stabilization on both the cameras with just one stop of difference. And last but not the least, you can use both the cameras for live streaming. This is it guys, thank you so much for stopping by, and if you found this video helpful, do support me by subscribing. See you in the next video.